Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, a podcast presentation of Cadence 13 in association with Black Barrel Media and Ritual Productions. This is an episode-by-episode look at the award-winning TV show Friday Night Lights, created by Peter Berg. I'm Stacey Oristano. I played Mindy Collette Riggins.
And I'm Derek Phillips. I played Billy Riggins.
Our assumption, of course, is that you, our listeners, have already watched the show.
But if you haven't, go watch Friday Night Lights, which is currently streaming on Netflix and Peacock TV. There will be spoilers in our podcast.
Hey, guys. We got merch.
That's right, baby. We've got merchandise. We've got hats. We've got T-shirts. We've got hoodies. We've got bumper stickers. We've got mugs, anything that you guys are thinking of. And you can pick all this stuff up at cleareyesfullheartspod.com. Once again, that's cleareyesfullheartspod.com.
And every few weeks, we'll do an audience participation episode just to answer your burning questions. So email us, please, what you want to know at cleareyesfullheartspod@gmail.com. Today, we are talking about Season 1, Episode 5, Git'er Done. It was written by Patrick Massett and John Zinman and directed by Mark Pisnarski. Here's our NBC TV synopsis. Voodoo clashes with Coach Taylor and fellow players alike. Jason's new roommate introduces him to quad rugby. Emotions run high when Tim and Jason reunite for the first time since the accident. And Lila is racked with guilt over her secret relationship.
So we're going to get into the rewatch in just a bit. But first, I wanted to talk about ratings, and then also answer some fan questions.
I know that we brought this up maybe a couple episodes ago about ratings and how important it is for a show to go forward. Do you know where we are now in this timeline with ratings, or episode 5?
Oh, yeah. In this timeline, as far as episode 5 is concerned, like the ratings at this point are terrible. We're not doing well. And there is kind of a bit of a cloud hanging over set in the sense that this show that all of us have really, really grown to love already might be done if the ratings don't pick up. At least that's how I was feeling. I know Palicki was, tiptoeing through the tulips and very positive that we were going to be around and that nothing bad was going to happen. But I was a little bit more of a negative Nelly back then.
Mm-hmm. Back then, guys. Back then, he was a negative Nelly.
What are you trying to say?
Nothing. I love you so much.
All right. Watch it there, kid.
Speaking of ratings, Derek, we actually got a fan question from Robbie Bruce asking, do actors talk about ratings on set?
And the answer to that question is it depends on the actor and it depends on who you're with. I would never walk into a trailer and be like, oh, the ratings last night were terrible. I would never do that in a million years. But there are certain people that I'm comfortable with or that I have a relationship with that I've established that I know don't mind talking about it. I mean, I don't think Stacey and I would have a problem talking about ratings. I know that Palicki and I actually had conversations about the ratings on Friday Night Lights when we were actually doing the show. I also remember a day in particular where Taylor Kitsch and I were about to shoot a scene, and we were walking over from Crafty, which is where, you go get snacks and stuff. And Kitsch goes, hey, he goes, don't screw this scene up. Some people actually watch this show. And we were just joking about the fact that our ratings weren't that spectacular at that point in time.
I don't think I know enough about what the numbers mean to care. Oh, that sounds terrible. I don't mean Stacey, that I don't care. I just don't understand it.
I don't understand the numbers either. It's like you got a 1 out of 7 or something. I don't understand ratios well enough to get it. Mm-mm. I don't understand it. I do know that I'd talk to people and be like, hey, this is what we got. What does that mean? And people would be like, oh, yeah, that's not good. Yeah, that's not good.
There was still, when we were on NBC, it was still Nielsen ratings, which means the Nielsen box in certain people's houses. And to me, it never made sense. So when things don't make sense to me, I pretend they don't exist.
But it's kind of the same thing. Stacey comes from a theater background and so do I. And one thing you never do is talk about reviews with other actors that don't want to hear it. So I had to learn that the hard way. I was working on a show and literally was like, dude, did you guys see the reviews? And I started talking and the stage manager grabbed me and she was like, hey, there are some people that don't want to hear the reviews. And I'm like, but it's a good review. And they're like, it doesn't matter. And I was like, oh, lesson learned. I was a young actor. I didn't know any better. But yeah, some people, I think some actors are afraid that if good review or bad review, knowing about it will somehow change their performance. And they don't want something like that to change.
I am in this camp. I agree that if you if you believe the good ones, you also have to believe the bad ones. I don't read reviews when I do theater shows. I just want to keep doing the performance that I've always done. Guys, we talked about the Nielsen box before. I can kind of explain what it is, and maybe Derek can help me. There are certain families that get picked to be a Nielsen family. They get a box, like a transmitter that is put in their house. It records what shows they watch. That family then becomes a percentage of people nationwide. So we don't actually know how many people watched a network NBC Friday Night Lights. It's a guess percentage from however many Nielsen boxes families watched it that night.
And so like back in the day, it used to be a physical box that they would like mail you and you would put it up on top of your TV set. And anytime you watched a TV show, it would record what you were watching, how long you watched it for, when you actually changed channels. I'm technically a Nielsen viewer right now, but I have YouTube TV. And YouTube TV asked me, do you want to join the Nielsens? And I was like, yeah, I want control finally. I want my say. So I'm technically a Nielsen viewer now. And so what I watch is recorded, and they basically let my viewing habits are now recorded.
And then there's streaming is a whole new thing, trying to get who the ratings from who watches it streaming. It's a very convoluted system that, to be fair, is very far from perfect.
Yeah. But I mean, as far as Netflix and Amazon are concerned and Apple TV, all those streamers, they know the minute you turn it on, the minute you turn it off, they know what shows you like, and they don't necessarily share that information with agents. And so it's a whole nother monster in and of itself. Because now they have all the information. They have everything. They know exactly what you watch down to the second.
That's because Big Brother's watching you. We actually have another fan question in this vein. This one is from Matt Cawthorn, who asked, what was it like on set? Were the cast members aware that the show was not doing as well at this time?
Yeah, I mean, look, I know that there was discussion about it. You know what I mean? That the numbers weren't spectacular. And as I had said before, you know, we're guaranteed 13 episodes, and we're trying to get what's called a back nine, which is we're trying to get to 22 episodes. That makes a full season. At least it used to. 22 episodes used to be what was considered the normal full season order for a primetime network show. Nowadays, you'll see a lot of shows that are just 13 episodes, and that's their whole entire season. But back in the day, 22 episodes was a full season of network television. But yeah, I mean, people in the cast were aware of what was going on and that our numbers weren't spectacular. But I think the objective was not to focus on that and just focus on, you know, hey, we're going to do the best show we possibly can, and we can't get caught up in, you know, who's watching or not watching, or, you know, you still bring your A game.
Speaking of watching, Derek, how about we get into this rewatch and talk about our highlights?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
I've definitely never seen this episode before. So many thoughts. The first one is, okay, I would think that just economically speaking in a town, it would take quite a while to run from the Garrity residence to the Riggins house. And that girl didn't break a bead of sweat.
Maybe Lila Garrity is just an amazing athlete.
Well, she is. I don't know if Minka Kelly is, I don't think like an athlete in life. She definitely does work out and she's a real jogger, but I know cheerleaders are athletes. Yeah. Oh my, you guys, the athleticism it takes to be like a competitive cheerleader. Oh my God.
Well, I love too that she's like, I'm just going for a run. Do we have a different definition of what a run is these days? Because she went for a run and then she, you know.
I think her mom on the way out the door too, her mom says, I'm just so proud of you for doing something for yourself. And I'm like, oh, she is definitely doing something for herself right now, Mom.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is.
She's sneaky. Okay. And then I think this is our first solo Coach Voodoo scene. A closed door meeting.
Voodoo alert.
Yeah, guys. Ding, 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 ding. Voodoo time. Stacey's favorite. I do have to say, I really like that we learn that Voodoo is doing everything he can just to get back home. He wants to go to LSU. He wants to get back to Louisiana. I think about being that age and being completely displaced from your home, your friends, your family, ending up in a small town. It gives me a little bit of empathy for this character that maybe doesn't have a lot of empathy into it. Or is that just me? Derek's shaking his head at me, you guys.
I wish you guys could see the expression on my face right now. I really wish you could. Okay, I agree with you. We do empathize a little bit with the fact that maybe he's such a jerk about the way he does it, though. Be a different story if he was like, look, he doesn't just say, this isn't my town, this isn't my home. He's like, this isn't my town. He's like, he's a jerk about it. Doesn't have to be a jerk about it. Come on, Voodoo.
Also, he says he hates the food in Texas, and that hurt my soul a little bit because that's where the best food in the world is, barbecue and Tex-Mex. And then he says to Coach, you and I are just an arranged marriage. Just like such a, like...
It's a great line, though.
A visceral thing about how he views that relationship. And
then he doesn't close the door. Or he does close the door. That's what Coach says, leave the door open, and he slams it. Why are you so angry, Voodoo?
He's got attitude. I don't know. I love him. I'm sorry. You guys, I totally want to know what you guys think too when you email us again. It's clearasfullheartspod@gmail.com. Am I an idiot with my voodoo love? I hope there's one listener out there that loves voodoo as much as I do, and I will feel vindicated in every possible way.
And that one listener can't be you, Stacey. You're not allowed to submit to our own email.
I've already set up like 8 different AOL accounts to email in and say how much I love Stacey Oristano's voice.
Of course you did. That reminds me of a time very early on in the show. I made the mistake of Googling. And as I said, the ratings were not that great at this point in time. But my friend Chris Price, long story short, I had Googled the show. I don't even know if Google existed at that point in time. But I went online and I'd done some research on the show. And I found back then these didn't really exist the way they do now. But it was a chat board where people were talking about Friday Night Lights. And this guy was defending Billy Riggins. And I was like, nah, I think Billy's kind of a jerk, And he's like, you don't understand. He's like, I know people on the show. And I'm like, who do you know on the show? And he's like, I know Billy Riggins. And I'm like, is this Chris Price, who was like my best friend? I'm having a conversation with my best friend. And so at that point, I was like, I'm not getting on these chat boards anymore. That's an embarrassing story, but it's a true story.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. So I'm having a conversation with my friend Chris Price telling me that he knows Derek Phillips and Billy Riggins. And I'm like, I think I know him better than you do.
I love Chris Price. And I love that Chris Price was defending Billy. There's something about that makes my heart really happy. I did watch this episode. I watched it last night to do like my notes. And then I watched it again this morning to just make sure I had it in my head to talk about it. Mm-hmm. And I did skip intro on Netflix the second time I watched it. And now I'm wondering if I'm on some kind of like CIA watch list.
Because you skipped the intro?
I did. I skipped the second time, not the first time. I want the full experience. I did. I skipped the intro the second time.
It's okay. It's okay.
Is it? Thank you. I appreciate you.
Let's get back into the show.
We go to Applebee's. Is this the first time that we're introduced that Tyra works at Applebee's?
Yes. It's not the first time we've been to Applebee's. Applebee's has been established as the hot spot in Dillon next to the Alamo Freeze, battling it out for the best cuisine in Dillon.
Sad.
But Tyra works at Applebee's.
Okay, also, did not know that Patrick J. Adams was on our show.
Welcome to Friday Night Lights.
Did not know.
Yeah.
I do remember, I come in 2 episodes from now in episode 7, like when Mindy's introduced. And I remember Annie Adrienne Palicki telling me her backstory or Tyra's backstory. And I remember this story specifically and her telling me what this storyline meant to Tyra and learning a little bit about our dad and stuff. But I didn't know it was Patrick J. Adams. And I was like, hey, I know you. Just, you guys, I'm learning so many things. You will also learn throughout this episode my complete detest of this character, Connor. Not a fan. I am a fan of Patrick J. Adams, not of Connor.
Yes, Connor is not he's not Voodoo.
Am I winning you over, Derek?
No, you're not at all. I'd say Connor and Voodoo are, in a tie right now for my least favorite people on the show.
To be fair, you're not
no
wrong.
No offense to the 2 actors who are brilliant in their roles, but
That's why it's so good. I am Kyle Chandler, you guys.
Oh, what did he do this time?
No, it's just watching. I completely understand the inner turmoil that is happening in him right now, with the big question being, who do I start?
Yeah.
Is it this wonder kid talent that has absolutely no respect or loyalty to me or the team, or this kid who maybe he is a little less talented, but he's so respectful and he's so loyal, and how do you choose?
Yeah. It's tough. That's what this show does so well, is it kind of sets these positions up where it's like, you know what the right answer is in your heart.
Do you think the right answer is Saracen?
I mean, that's what you want it to be, I think, is a fan of the show. I mean, most people do. You may want it to be Voodoo, but most people want it to be Saracen. I think most people...
Listen, I don't want Voodoo to win over Saracen, but...
Why don't we ask our fans what they think? Should it be Voodoo or Saracen? We want your thoughts on that, guys.
I mean, like, if you ask Buddy Garrity, it's going to be Voodoo.
Yes.
I mean...
But do you want to align with Buddy Garrity on just about anything? Come on.
I really don't.
I don't want to sway our fans. I want to hear from them, and I want them to tell us what they think on that.
Like, Kyle's face just reads... You can tell everything you need just from a look from Kyle. And I love him. Then we're going to the oil fields with Connor. Connor asks Tyra to go to the oil fields and meet geologists, which to me is like one of the worst pickup lines in history, but maybe.
That's not a good line. I will make a note of that.
If you're into rocks, maybe. I don't know. Is that a thing?
So there's that storyline going on. But then let's talk about the beautiful storyline going on with Matt and Julie, because I love this scene of the two of them outside the stadium. Julie asks him if he thinks he's going to start, and Matt gives her a very PC answer, like he's on ESPN, basically. And she says, dude, you need to chill out. I'm not ESPN. And Matt walks away, kicking himself, saying, you're so stupid. But I love that scene for multiple reasons. Number one, it just makes me smile because it's just a beautiful little F&L scene. Does it drive action necessarily? Maybe a little bit, because we're talking about the thing that's kind of looming over the town in this episode, which is the idea of, is it going to be Voodoo or is it going to be Saracen? But then it's so beautiful because we got Matt and Julie. It's that high school love. That show just captures this. But then the second thing, and this is something that we discussed, I think, in the pilot episode of our podcast, just talking about Texas being the 12th man in Friday Night Lights. And once again, we get to see it. You got the winds in the air, Julie's hair is blowing, and you got this big Texas sky in the background. It's one of those things you just can't replicate. You're not going to get that same shot in California or anywhere else in the country, really, for that matter. I mean, it's just Texas, man. It's Texas. You can smell it.
I love their relationship. I love the growth of Julie's character. I also Amy Teagarden and her, she's so quintessentially the all-American teen. Like, just everything about her and the blonde hair and her sunshiny face. You guys, Amy was the only
face.
A little baby doll. She looks like such a little angel baby doll. Amy was the only minor that we had on set. So her mother, like, legally had to be Amy Teagarden, who plays Julie, just so you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah, her mother had to be with her on set, and there was like school that happened and stuff. But because her mom was always around, her mom became such a part of the cast. And I remember getting excited when she was around because I loved hanging out with her. And she was just like just a whole other member of the cast. And I be excited, definitely, when we get to talk to Amy about what it must be like to be that young, playing your age on a show full of like adults. I'd be terrified if I was that age doing that. And she's so just effortless.
She's a character in general. It was right around this time that I showed up to set, and I had an old iPod at this point in time. I mean, like an old one, like maybe the first.
iPod, you said?
iPod. This is like, I had like a first generation iPod, you know what I mean? And I was walking up the set with it, and she's like, oh my God, how old is that iPod?
That's exactly Amy.
And I was, shattered. Just, I hadn't had a teen take a crap on me like that since high school, and it felt so awful.
Man, when you get a good, I used to substitute teach, and high school was the scariest because teenagers can be very cruel when they want to be.
They're brutal.
That's my other podcast, guys. My substitution podcast. No, it's not. I'm kidding.
And I love Amy. This isn't to.
Amy's a gem among gems. Listen, if I was a geologist, I'd go to the oil fields and find me an Amy Teagarden.
There you go.
What am I talking
Way
about
to bring
today?
it back, Stacey. Way to bring it back.
What am I talking about?
Let's get back to. We keep getting off track here. Can we get back on track?
I mean, welcome to our relationship,
yes.
guys. Hunker down because we got 5 seasons of this happening. Okay. Oof. We go to rehab with Jason Street, and we see it takes 2 to 3 people just to even hold his body up while all he's doing is just tossing a beach ball. And this kid used to have the best arm in the entire nation, and now he can't even toss a beach ball. I honestly wonder if they were. I feel like it had to be on purpose that they were using a ball for him to be
a beach
using
ball.
so we have that juxtaposition. Oh, it hit my heart.
Yeah. That's a tough scene to watch. And all the stuff with Jason is really hard. But there is like a little beacon of light here because suddenly Herc comes in and, Herc, I'm just going to keep referring to him as our little beacon of light on Friday Night Lights. Herc comes in, brash, crazy, and says, "Hey, Six, come with me. I got something I need to show you." Basically, I don't think he calls him Six, but he basically tells him QB. Calls him QB. Yeah. That's right. He says, "QB, you got to come with me." And so they take Street to go watch the first time we see what Herc is doing, which is he's playing wheelchair or quad rugby, wheelchair rugby, also known as murder ball. And these guys, all these athletes are nuts. And we can see that the wheels are kind of turning again for Street. This is the first time that I think he's got something. He's got a goal.
Yeah, I think it's the first time I've seen excitement in Street, or like his eyes finally light up with like, oh wait, something's happening. But yeah, I totally get watching those guys play. I totally get why they call it murder ball. Those athletes are fierce.
Yeah.
This Mac and Coach scene.
Yeah.
This is the first time we really understand that Mac really did think he was going to be and should be head coach. And he says, "You're sitting in my chair."
Yeah.
Ooh, excuse me.
I just love Blue Decker. And I know we've talked about this in previous podcasts about how good some of these smaller players on the show are. But Blue Decker just brings it every scene that he's in, every single time that he's on camera. I think they give the show a little bit of authenticity, having these guys that are Texas natives.
So here's the thing. You talk about the 12th man a lot. We actually finally go to we see the oil fields that Connor's working at. This shot, if any of you listeners ever want to know what Texas looks like, that is so exactly what Texas is. It's like not necessarily all of it, but it is a lot of just flatlands, pure open sky, oil rigs, lots of it.
That flat land thing is something I think that's the thing that you just can't replicate in a place like California. Is it just seems like the sky is bigger. And I know we talked about that before, but so I won't keep harping on how big the sky is, but I probably will.
It looks giant. There's nothing in its way. So we also learn a little bit about my dad. Well, we'll discover he's my dad and his history.
Okay, so wait, I just want to jump in real quick. So we know that your dad worked in the oil fields, but we don't know exactly what he was doing or where he is now. And I don't remember, but I don't know if we ever find anything out. What?
I don't think we do. But so the oil fields consumed him.
Yeah.
Are we saying he died or he had to leave us because he lost all of his money? Guys, listeners, I also what do you think now? I don't think I honestly have the answer to this. What do you guys think happens here? I probably should know. This is like me being bad actor that I don't have the answers to this.
No, but I mean, hey, it's been a long time since I watched the show, and I don't think we ever talk about what happened to the Riggins mom. I mean, I think the only time, honest to God, that I remember her. I remember very vaguely, like 2 or 3 times that we mentioned her on the show, but never really talked about where she is now. So we don't know if she's alive or dead. And I think it might be the same thing with the Colette.
Oof, I love how our families mirror each other sometimes, though. Okay, I'm feeling all of these feelings. Let's talk about the other thing that's getting me. How old is this man that is hitting on my sister? I am very uncomfortable.
Look, here's the deal. Friday Night Lights has a little bit of a history of people, being a little bit older, having sexual relations with people that are younger. It's messed up. Agreed. Yes. I mean, 100%. I'm not condoning this, but it seems like almost every major character on this show has some kind of fling at some point in time with a person who's older.
I also sort of love that the show doesn't make a meal out of it. It's not like it's an after school special. It's like that happens and now we're moving on to the next thing. Like that's life.
And it's messed up, but it does happen.
Yeah. More with Street. I love that we're giving Street a little bit of hope and a little bit of light. So Herc in his own Herc way tells Jason that it's going to take about 6 months till he can kind of start playing rugby. There's just that light that happens in Jason. He sees his life can be a little bit more than what it is now.
Yeah, that this isn't a death knell. That this isn't the end of the road. This is just the start of a new journey, and you kind of see that when we pick up in this scene and Street's kind of looking over in Herc's area of the room, and we find out that there's a picture there of Herc, and he was obviously an athlete as well, and it appears he was a track star before his injury. So Street's starting to see that he and Herc might actually have something in common, other than the fact that they're both in a chair now for the rest of their lives.
That's what it is. He's like, I can compete again. I think that's the fire in Street's belly.
So then we immediately cut over to Tim and Lila, who are sleeping with each other again. I mean, just between you and I, our siblings on this show are making a lot of bad decisions.
Specifically in this episode.
What's going on here? I mean, I felt like you probably did a pretty crappy job of being a big sister. Shouldn't you have been looking out? I mean, I know you weren't around at this point in time, quote unquote, but come on.
But she is. I had this thought of what would Mindy say? Yeah. Which I think I'm going to make a recurring theme on this show because it's amazing. And I sort of feel like Mindy would be like, yeah, he's hot. Like, whatever, great.
I think that's exactly what Mindy would do. Mindy.
What's the problem?
But yeah, I mean, and Billy's just never around at this point in time. It's just this house is a den of sin.
I do often wonder where Billy goes.
He's working.
Where do you go? What does Billy do?
Billy's working. Billy sells drill bits to oil guys.
Oh.
Yeah. What's next? What comes next?
Tammy comes into Coach's office.
Yes.
I love that Tammy has this just truth about whoever you start, everybody loses. There's no way you do this where everybody wins. It's just a crappy decision and you have to make it.
And this is just a side note for me, just watching the scene that has literally nothing to do with the scene, but just a comment on Kyle Chandler and how much I love that guy as an actor. I love that in this scene, because when we would start a scene on Friday Night Lights, usually what would happen, the director would come in and say, so where do you want to be at the start of this? And so Kyle, 9 times out of 10, it was the actor's choice. And whatever the actor chose, they just move cameras around them. So Kyle's got his shoes off. He's got his legs kicked up on the desk. And he's just owning it. But I'm telling you right now, it's a Friday Night Lights thing. I can almost guarantee you that on any other show, had Kyle come in, kicked his shoes off, put him up on the desk, they would say, ooh, how about maybe we keep the shoes on? I guarantee you that's what would have happened on almost any other show.
I did notice that too. I liked it. And then Coach does make the decision and he tells Matt that he's going to start Voodoo. And I think Maddie's still so polite. Says, yes, sir.
Poor kid. Every time Matt's on camera, I just feel bad for him. And then now we move on to the pep rally that's happening before the game. And of course, Buddy Garrity's in the stands with the high school kids. You were asking, what does Billy do? Where's Billy all the time?
That's my question.
Why is Buddy Garrity at a high school in the middle of the day? Like,
why isn't he at work? Yeah, just amongst the children's.
Yes.
Just she's but I I love Landry's school spirit.
Yeah.
He is in this pep rally.
He just nails it too.
Oh, Landry. Um, oh, this scene, you guys. This scene in Jason's room. Lila walks in and I was like, wait, don't you have a game to go to? And then Coach comes in and then the team comes in. And even at the point, I think Coach gave him a clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. And at that point already, I did not have clear eyes because I was tearing up and I did not know. Then comes 33.
Yeah, and then Waterworks. I mean, I'm sitting there bawling. I'm bawling because I got my own thing going on watching this, but I'm also sitting there going, I mean, what do you think Tim is thinking at this point? Part of it is guilt that he hasn't been in there. Then he's got the guilt thinking that he's still probably thinking that it's his fault that Street got injured. So there's the guilt that he hasn't been in there to see his buddy. There's the guilt that Street got injured. And then there's the guilt that he's holding on to this secret that he's been sleeping with his best friend's girlfriend, you know? And we as an audience know that. And all Jason knows is that his best friend hasn't been there to see, you know?
And it's so, he only says like 2 words. And I know he has to leave to go to the game, but I also think he can't be in that room anymore.
Yeah.
God, that's a lot of weight to put on a teenager's shoulders. Oof. I mean, but he put himself there, but I'm just saying, oof, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Go to the game, Voodoo starting, but definitely not holding himself together during the game.
Yeah, I mean, I know you didn't play football, Stacey, but he starts calling his own plays. And like, that's a major no-no. Like, you don't get to call your own plays.
I know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's calling his own plays. And then, hey, one of the times it actually works out and he scores a touchdown. So, and Coach is losing his mind on the sidelines. And then he's, once again, starts calling his own plays, negating what Coach calls in, and he throws a pick six, which is, he throws an interception. The other team scores a touchdown. And, I mean, as we know, this ain't going to fly when you're playing for Coach Taylor. So at halftime, there's a little bit of a change that takes place.
Well, that scene in the locker room. Coach and Voodoo. So good.
But that's something that's also interesting about what happens here is that, we know that Voodoo is the better athlete and that he's the better quarterback, but this team doesn't want to play for Voodoo. This team wants to play with Saracen. And so you see that. I mean, when Voodoo starts losing it in the locker room, the rest of the players are like, get the hell out of here, man. Go. We don't need this kind of BS right now. And so the team kind of rallies around Matt at this point in time.
That's interesting. I didn't think about it like that, but you're completely right about this whole team rallies around Matt and wants to play for Matt more than Voodoo. You're right.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm not gonna say that a lot. Eric, you're right. Just so you get it, just so you get that line clean.
This is the hardest part of the episode for Stacey because Voodoo is no longer the starting quarterback. So Stacey cried more in this scene than she did when Street and Tim saw each other for the first time. Is this correct, Stacey?
Listen, I'm not saying he makes all of the best choices. I'm not saying I want him to start for the Panthers. I just love his character.
Okay. All right. So while Stacey's crying about Voodoo, we move back to the game. As I said, the players are now starting to rally a little bit around Matt. And we also see it. I love this moment at the end of the game where, they're going for 2 and Coach says, what do you think we do? And he's asking Saracen. And Saracen's like, give it to Smash. It's selfless. He's not trying to get the glory for himself. He says, give the ball to Smash. Smash has been killing it all game. And that's what they do. And they give the ball to Smash. Smash gets the 2-point conversion, and the Panthers wind up winning in the last minute of a game, which never happens, ever.
I love, especially not on TV football.
No.
I love that Coach isn't just simply telling Saracen what to do either. He's asking him questions. What do you want to do? Look over at that team. What's wrong with that team? And you just see those players are exhausted, and like Matt's eyes light up, and like inside of him, like he's quarterback. It's just, he is. Panthers win the game. Panthers win the game. That's my play-by-play.
Yes. And then it's cut to, Saturday in Dillon, Texas.
And Tyra wakes up stinkingly gorgeous, sits up in bed. Connor's not there, but then of course he comes in with breakfast. And he says, Tyra, you're a great girl. And she and I didn't even know we had the same reaction. She's like, no, please don't. Let's not do that.
Okay, so there are two things in this episode that you've said at this point that I've been making notes of. Number one, don't take your first date to an oil field. And number two, don't tell him you're a great girl.
Because the next word is but.
This is a rewatch, but also a dating show.
It is.
So
yeah, because I'm one to give dating advice. The next part of that sentence is, Tyra, you're a great girl, but. And she won't even let him say it. And then he tells her that he's also apparently in a serious relationship, which I would think is something you would want to tell somebody before you sleep with them. But
this scene, this whole Connor storyline just crushes me for Tyra, because you've really started to grow to love her character, and that she just wants something better for herself. She just wants a better life. And she's just going about it the wrong way. We see that a lot on Friday Night Lights. These characters striving for things, but making the wrong decisions.
There's something about the end of this scene that mirrors the end of the scene with Jason Street too, where the camera just sits on this person that we love, and they're crying and whatever. And there's something about Annie, Adrienne Palicki, who plays Tyra, just sitting in that bed, and the simple act of just putting her earrings back in her ear, that she's so in that moment small and vulnerable for the first time. I don't think we've ever seen Tyra vulnerable. And in that moment, it's so simple. And it's another what you would call like an FNL moment that's just quiet and beautiful and makes me feel things.
Yeah. And that's something, just as actors and storytellers, we don't feel that way for Tyra if she's not so powerful. And she is so powerful. She's lost in these early episodes, as a character. I think the character's a little lost, but the character's always tough and resilient. And to see her break down in that moment, it's like, whoa, I didn't know that this character could do that.
Yeah, and that they entrusted Annie knowing that she could pull that off too and break our hearts.
100%.
Just thank you for giving us that growth.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's still Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's still Saturday morning in Dillon, and I love that we're just kind of getting to see how everybody else is waking up and what's going on in their lives. And Saracen's waking up and he's checking his bruises in the mirror, and it's such a subtle little moment, but it is like that rite of passage for a young man,
Yeah, my war patches. I earned this.
Yeah. You're checking your scars, your battle wounds. Yeah.
And then back to Street, wheeling himself down the hallway to the weight room, strapping a free weight onto his wrist. He is ready to compete again.
Yeah. The kid's found his motivation in that heart, that drive that we knew he had. And that's fun to watch. Yeah. It's fun to watch because we know that, okay, something exciting is about to happen for this kid. And we've just been feeling for him for these last 5 episodes. And now he's found his fire again.
God bless Herc. Here's what I don't get what this Saturday going back to the field house is for Coach and why there's so many people there.
I'm not exactly sure why they're all there either, but I do love the fact that like now everywhere he goes, he's the king of the castle. He's adored. Give him the keys to the town. He's the greatest person who's ever lived. Coach Taylor, king of kings. He's at the gas station. Everyone's high-fiving him and telling him how wonderful he is. I don't know why there's all those people outside the field house. I do know coaches on Saturday are going back to watch game tape and take notes. Even after a win, you got to take game tape.
But there's so many people inside too. And I'm like, why are all you people inside there? But we do see Gertie not so happy. He's got these 2 gentlemen with him saying that Voodoo is maybe possibly ineligible. If it's determined that he is ineligible, they're going to lose that victory. They lose that win.
Yeah. And I'm just sitting there going, oh, buddy. What are you doing, buddy? And Buddy has that great line. He goes, I thought we had that all squared away there, Coach.
Oh, your buddy's back, Derek. Yes.
Is it
That
bad?
is it.
I thought we had that all squared away, Coach. Like, what's going on there?
It's like he's in the room with us, Derek.
But classic Buddy Garrity. I mean, Buddy, like the minute they get nabbed potentially doing something wrong, Buddy's like, he's just immediately blaming it on Eric. It's definitely Coach Taylor's fault. Buddy would never do anything wrong.
And then, but then he walks into a room full of people that I don't understand, and then the show's over. But they do leave us with a little like, ooh, all of that could be for naught. All of this celebrating could be. Oh.
Yeah, that whole entire episode, all that struggle, Voodoo or Saracen, this whole entire dilemma that the whole entire town is going through, and then at the end of the day, may not mean anything. That whole entire episode is kind of a wash. Not a wash, but like, not the episode is a wash, but I'm not saying that.
Episode 5's
I mean,
a wash.
that storyline with Voodoo and Matt, it's like all that tension, and at the end of it, doesn't mean anything maybe, because the Panthers may wind up losing this game.
Derek, remember, life's not so clean cut. Life is complicated.
Oh, Stacey.
I think I'm gonna write. I'm gonna.
You're gonna bring negative Derek back. Nobody wants negative Derek.
Good job. It's what I do. Guys, that is it for episode 5.
But join us next week when we have another special guest.
Hi, I'm Brad Leland, and I play Buddy Garrity.
That's right, Buddy Garrity's coming to the show. But until then, clear eyes.
Full hearts.
Can't lose.
Clear Eyes, Full Hearts is a podcast presentation of Cadence 13 in association with Black Barrel Media and Ritual Productions.
Executive producers are Stacey Orstano and Derek Phillips, Chris and Mandy Wimmer for Black Barrel Media, and Steve Walters for Ritual Productions. Our producer is Mandy Wimmer.
Please send your questions to cleareyesfullheartspod@gmail.com and find us on social media. I'm at Stacey Orstano on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm at Derek Phillips on Twitter and _ Derek Phillips on Instagram.
And check out our websites, cadence13.com and blackbarrelmedia.com.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.